ergo gets activated in high stress environments. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's the like safety lever on your cell.
Mhm.
Like, oh, that's over the top, that's too much, time to crank the lever, and now it's coming into action. So it's like laying there in wait for when you really need it. And I feel like we all really need it more now, probably than we ever have before. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Eversio experience. I'm Brandi Garden.
And I'm Dr. Desiree Caruso, naturopathic physician. We are beyond excited to dive into one of the most fascinating, underrated, and powerful nutrients out there, ergothioneine.
That is right. We usually would be talking about a specific mushroom or a specific health topic to you, but today we're getting really granular. We're going to talk about just one compound, which you think, how could they spend a whole podcast episode about one? But it's because we're super mushroom nerds, and this is our favorite one. You have heard us mention polysaccharides like beta glucans being the most important bioactive compound in mushrooms before. And we have talked about, Dr. Desiree loves to talk about triterpenoids, especially from reishi. We'll talk about ganoduric acid, and that has come up in many episodes. But today we're talking about an antioxidant. And ergothioneine is an antioxidant that is gaining traction as the longevity vitamin. And today we are going to peel back the layers on it, from how to pronounce it, although we'll probably just call it ergo, and how it protects your brain, to how it supports your mitochondria, and how it can even expand your health span. So here we go, all about ergo. And let's just start with, what is ergothioneine and why should you care? And if we go back to the basics, ergothioneine, or ergo, is a really unique antioxidant. It's a thiol compound that humans cannot produce on our own. So that means we have to get it through food. And it turns out mushrooms are by far the best source.
Yeah, they definitely are the best source. But what's really wild to me is that our bodies have a specialized transporter. It's called OCTN1. That's just for this molecule. So that tells us, okay, there has to be some specialized or adaptive response for our bodies to actually use ergothioneine. And that transporter moves ergo into our cells and even can move it into our mitochondria, which is where it protects us from oxidative stress, so cellular stress. So there are some key features of ergothioneine that are important to know based on how it can impact us in a positive way. So one of the key features is that it's derived from the amino acid histidine. Like Brandi mentioned, it's a thiol based, so it's a thiol antioxidant, just like glutathione, which is the master antioxidant in our body. And it's found in high amounts of particular mushrooms like oyster mushroom, lion's mane mushroom, shiitake, and maitake mushrooms.
Yeah, you just mentioned 3 of the mushrooms in our 4 mushroom blend. So you out there in our Eversio community, if you are taking the 4 mushroom blend, Dr. Desiree just described the lion's mane, shiitake, and maitake that make up 3/4 of that blend. And now you know why we created it that way. The 4th mushroom in that blend is reishi, but that blend is going to be your best source of ergothioneine if this episode interests you and ergothioneine is something you want more of. And I just love that nature gives us exactly what we need. Mushrooms are essentially the primary producers of ergothioneine on this planet, although it does occur in other things. There is a little bit in beans, and it's occurring in other foods out there, but nothing has more than mushrooms. And I think that's why I love it so much. Humans are designed to consume it. We have these receptors for it. Of course, that means Mother Nature made it for us. Yet, something so interesting is that most of us are deficient in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of us are deficient in it. And I think the biggest thing is, okay, well, how does ergothioneine directly impact specific systems within our body? And you and I are big nerds about brain health. So what's the deal with ergothioneine and brain health? And brain health is where ergo really shines. It's been shown to accumulate in high amounts in areas of our body that are prone to oxidative stress. So we can think of, the retina, we can think of our liver, red blood cells, and in the brain, like the hippocampus.
Yes, and because we both love to meditate, we are always looking at the science around the parts of our brain and how they're affected. And we did find that study. It was a study from 2022. There were 470 participants in it, and it was looking at baseline plasma ergo levels. And that study found a direct correlation lower ergo levels were linked to faster cognitive decline. And for somebody that really came to mushrooms, lion's mane specifically, for my brain health, looking for neurogenesis, looking for a way to hold off the cognitive decline that I was headed for if I had continued using a pharmaceutical. And I like that just made me want to know more about this compound that nobody else seems to be talking about in the mushroom world. Once again, we're always talking about beta glucans, which are amazing for immunomodulating properties, and triterpenoids, which can help us with the HPA axis and nervous system regulation. But to find a compound that is highest in mushrooms, people are calling it a longevity vitamin, and now we know it is linked to faster cognitive decline when we have low amounts, made me want to have a higher amount of it.
Totally. And it's not just memory either, because I think we often associate a fading memory with aging. We're also talking decision making, processing speed, even emotional resilience, anything related to brain health and preserving our cognitive function and our cognitive faculties and capacities. So there's, a few mechanisms by how ergothioneine supports brain protection, and one is that it can help to reduce inflammation in brain tissue, and that's really a basis for a lot of disease, not just within the brain but in other organs and other systems, is that inflammation when it becomes unmanageable, especially chronic inflammation. And so this is where ergothioneine can help to reduce inflammation because it's an antioxidant, and specifically for brain tissue. It can also scavenge free radicals. So free radicals is like oxidative stress. That's essentially the roots of inflammation, where we have these excess of free radicals. So it can help to scavenge them or put out the fires with those, so to speak. It's really helping to recycle glutathione. We know that glutathione is this master antioxidant within our body, but oftentimes glutathione can be depleted, especially in chronic disease or where you have chronic exposure to oxidative stress. So it can help to recycle that. And what I think is cool is that it boosts heat shock proteins, which our body needs for repair. Heat shock proteins essentially enable resilience within our bodies.
Absolutely. Okay, you're making me think about the conversation around mitochondria and this powerhouse in our cells, the energy and cellular protection, which I think, we all know. We're thinking about the surface things, sleeping and eating and moving, but when we're doing those things well, we're really supporting our cellular health. And when we talk about ergothioneine, it's this cellular protection down at the level of the cells. So when we talk about mitochondria, like this is like our cellular batteries, I think of them. Ergo plays a really protective role there by preventing mitochondrial damage when we are under stress, and we're all under so much stress. Again, another reason I was so fascinated reading all of the research, because I know my autoimmune condition showed up when I wasn't managing my stress. And had I known then that there's this, little compound hiding away in mushrooms, could I have mitigated some of the damage I did by sitting in chronic stress? So I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, stress is the basis for a lot of disease, and it really is what puts our bodies over that bucket, where our bucket is overflowing with the amount of things that it's having to deal with. So when I'm looking at the research on ergothioneine and this transporter in particular, I mean, the fact that our bodies have this unique transporter that we didn't even know about, and it's specialized for ergothioneine, and it's transporting other things, but its main role, this transporter, is that it's transporting ergothioneine, and especially into particular areas where there's higher stress that it needs it. And it gets transported across the mitochondrial membrane, this energy pack for our body. That's next level targeting to me. And it's also a metal chelator, meaning that it can help to bind heavy metals like mercury, copper, and iron, and can help remove them.
Amazing.
Totally, it's very amazing. And some of the mitochondrial benefits, because we think, okay, oftentimes when we are fatigued and we have low energy in our bodies at capacity, physiologically, we need to target our mitochondria and help to support that. So how can ergo support the mitochondria? Well, it can help prevent oxidative damage to mitochondrial DNA, which is a big thing. It can help to support ATP production, which means energy. That means that it can help the battery pack with more energy, meaning that the battery pack is fully charged. That's great. We always
So
love to have more energy.
especially generators like you and I, who
Yeah.
I know we get called the Energizer Bunnies because, if you're into human design and you're a generator like us, we do tend to go, 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 go.
Hmm.
But everybody gets depleted at some point, and having that ATP production, adenosine triphosphate, definitely the energy currency in the cell,
Hmm.
knowing ergothioneine is supporting that. Again, who doesn't want more of that?
100%. And I find it really fascinating Ergo's relationship with glutathione because glutathione is something that our body can produce. And, glutathione is a really popular supplement to take as well, especially when we have that influx of inflammation from certain stressors and certain diseases and things. But Ergo can help to stabilize our cellular pH, which helps when glutathione is actually depleted. So it's helping with that whole antioxidant pathway as well. And it can help reduce UV induced DNA damage in eye and skin cells. So remember, I said earlier, it is accumulated in high stress tissues. So our eye, our skin cells, right? Having high stress, high oxidative stress where there's a lot of things going on. And the cool thing too is that ergothioneine can be upregulated by our body, and our body can actually anticipate ergothioneine consumption and can increase the amount of transporters. So that was a cool
Wow.
nerd moment for me.
Our bodies are so smart. That's so cool. So you're saying that ergo gets activated in high stress environments. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's the like safety lever on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's over the top, that's too much, time to crank the lever, and now it's coming into action. So it's like laying there in wait for when you really need it. And I feel like we all really need it more now, probably than
Mm-hmm.
we ever have before.
Yeah, we definitely do, especially as we're hit with more environmental exposures,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing too in the reproductive health world. So ergothioneine really shines in brain health, but what's the scoop on ergothioneine and reproductive health? So this is one of the lesser known benefits is how it can impact reproduction and in a positive way. So in studies on rats, they found that ergothioneine protected against testicular damage from this chemotherapy drug cisplatin. So it helped
Yeah.
to preserve sperm count, sperm motility, as well as testosterone levels. So I know within the reproductive space, a lot of times we're chatting about women's health and how can we improve women's fertility, and that is a big piece, especially within the birth control era
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of women are just prescribed it like candy. But there's also the piece with men as well that
Yes.
oftentimes it gets overlooked, and adequate sperm health and male reproduction is just as important.
Yeah, and I remember, so another study that was on healthy rats. So you talked about it preserving the sperm count, but there was another study that also talked about ergo supplementation and how it improved sperm quality and reduced oxidative markers in that area and in that function. So I think that, I mean, we have used the word spermageddon many times in previous episodes, and we know that many people have predicted that there's going to come a time that we're going to be in a real reproductive spermageddon, and going to be an issue for the population of this planet. So we've always known mushrooms are something that can benefit that. We've talked about cordyceps in the past and how it can help with fertility and libido and all of the things leading to more healthy reproduction. But if ergothioneine, we know, is the thing in these mushrooms, it's the compound within the mushroom that is responsible for it. That just gives us, to me, permission to do more studies, not just in rats, but we know now how beneficial, how safe it is. It's time for us to look for people willing to put the money forward to do these studies on healthy humans and see what's happening with their sperm count and sperm quality.
Yeah, it means it could be helpful for fertility. Not only that, but hormonal aging and really protecting reproductive tissues from environmental toxins.
Yeah, so enhances sperm quality and testosterone production. It can support female reproductive tissues that are prone to oxidative stress, and we see it expressed in seminal plasma and in ovaries. And
Yeah.
I love that Mother Nature does not differentiate. She doesn't care if you're a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's always got your back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I look at it for how, so I have been very cognizant of how much ergothioneine I'm getting in a day. And we'll talk about that later, but I'm not just doing it through taking mushroom extracts, but also through eating mushrooms in my diet, because I am somebody that is always, I mean, there's three things for me that I'm always just very aware of, and that is stress, inflammation, and immunity, for me being somebody that is managing an autoimmune condition without pharmaceuticals. And the truth is that, like we have said, we live in a soup of stress, whether we like it or not, just by walking out the door. We're hearing about EMFs. We are all exposed to pollution, whether we like it or not. There is going to be crappy food in our reality, even as much as Dr. Des, you and I are so aware of what we eat. I would consider us both people who eat a clean diet, but we're also living our lives. And if Lori comes to the office and she has made us a delicious cheesecake, which will always be dairy free, it will always be vegan, there's still going to be sugar, there's still going to be other things. And then lack of sleep is another thing that we're very good about sleep hygiene, but there can be a girl's night that you're still up and talking at 3 a.m. and we're never gonna regret those times. So stress is there. It's going to be there no matter how hard we try to prevent it. And I love that Ergo just helps buffer those effects by working with the glutathione that your body can create within itself if you're eating enough broccoli, and not against it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it doesn't work against it. In fact, fungi actually use ergothioneine as their primary intracellular antioxidants, whereas humans use glutathione. So that's a really cool comparison. So our biology complements one another, and it's really, as a mushroom nerd, I think I can speak for you, it's proof that we're deeply evolutionarily connected.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So ergothioneine has some superpowers. What are they? Number one, it helps to scavenge those reactive oxygen species. So I mentioned that firefighter analogy. If we've got little fires going on, these reactive oxygen species, it's really being that firefighter to putting out these little fires that are within our body. It's also helping to protect tissues from inflammation-induced damage, because when we have inflammation and too much inflammation for too long, that's where there can be tissue damage. So helping to mitigate that and bringing that level down.
Yeah.
It can also enhance immune resilience. So the fact that it is an antioxidant and that interplay with glutathione supports our immune system to be resilient to things, as well as reducing the expression of inflammatory cytokines. So cytokines,
yes, please.
Those are those chemical messengers that are part of the immune pathway, that cascading pathway, and it can help to reduce expression of those and therefore mitigating the inflammatory response.
Yeah, again, the pharmaceutical that I took was an anti-TNF alpha. So TNF-A or TNF alpha is an inflammatory cytokine. That is why I had psoriatic arthritis or inflammation in my joints. And knowing that this is a natural way to just stop your body from expressing so much of that or too much of that, it's nature's pharmaceutical. And for sure, I know that's part of what has been so effective for me by including mushrooms so often in my routine. And I just think the more stress that you're under, we know from the research, the more your body upregulates that OCTN1 transporter Dr. Des talked about to pull in more ergo for you. Mm-hmm. So the body knows what's happening. It is reading your environment. It is reading your body. It is reading how you're reacting. And the more stress you're under, it is coming back and upregulating those transporters so that you can use the ergothioneine that you have hopefully consumed by getting mushrooms into your diet. And I think that I'd love, Dr. Des, for you to talk about something that maybe people haven't heard about. And we were just chatting about it before, the triage theory, and something that I think, way back to 2006. So the triage theory, why ergo matters with this. And I think it's the perfect time for you to really tell people what is the triage theory and how ergo can come into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's Dr. Bruce Ames who proposed the triage theory back in 2006. And it basically says that when a body is low on a nutrient, it will triage or prioritize using that nutrient for short-term survival at the expense of long-term repair and health maintenance.
Okay, so it's like, your body putting out fires today while letting structural damage build up quietly in the background.
Totally. And ergothioneine fits into this beautifully because you won't feel a crash or get a disease right away if you're low in ergothioneine, but long term, you may be missing out on protection from aging, inflammation, and degeneration.
Exactly. It doesn't cause a deficiency disease, but its absence likely accelerates chronic illnesses. So just like the triage theory predicts, your body is making do without this vital tool.
Totally. So the takeaway is this: don't wait until you feel broken. Nourish those long-term systems now, and ergothioneine is one of the best ways to do that. And especially when we've looked at longitudinal studies or observational studies with ergothioneine, they found that as aging occurs, ergothioneine levels naturally decline. So don't wait until you feel like they're so low or you are so depleted and not really feeling well. It's this, prevention, which really is supporting natural aging and health.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Longevity, aging, and the big picture. What's the deal? Here's a fun fact. There was this global dietary study, and they found that Italy, the homeland, had the highest average ergothioneine intake, which was about 5 milligrams per day. So what was their average lifespan? It was around 83 years. When you compare that to the United States, where intake is only 1 milligram per day, their lifespan is around 79 years old.
That's wild. And I know Bruce Ames, the guy who created the micronutrient triage theory, has suggested that ergo should be classified as a longevity vitamin, and now we know why. Because it's not just preventing one disease, but it's supporting all of them by maintaining that cellular function. And when it hits hard at that lifespan, who doesn't want those extra years if you're feeling healthy at that time? So go Italians. We knew there was a secret. And I think porcini mushroom is very high in ergothioneine and is quite prevalent in the Italian diet. You can tell me if you're ancestors. But that just makes sense. They're eating more mushrooms and therefore they're just getting more of it in their diet. 5 milligrams a day is exactly where we want to be. And here we are, North Americans, who are a bit mycophobic, not getting enough mushrooms in our diet. And we are deficient in something that you could be taking one thing that makes a difference in all disease instead of taking a different drug for every single disease. Hello. Let's go.
Let's go. I know. So, and especially after age 55, where I mentioned that plasma ergothioneine levels are naturally dropping. So that decline they have found is associated with an increased risk of neurodegeneration, of heart disease, and frailty. So becoming more frail as these ergothioneine levels just naturally decline. So what are these key longevity actions that ergothioneine is having for us to support healthy aging? Well, number one, it's helping to protect cellular membranes from aging. So by maintaining the integrity of our cellular membranes, then other things, toxins, things that shouldn't get beyond that barrier aren't, and it's maintaining that to protect those tissues. It's also enhancing red blood cell quality and oxygen delivery. So remember I said that red blood cells, they have high levels of these transporters because of the amount of oxidative stress that they're dealing with, these red blood cells going everywhere. And then it's also supporting repair systems with, ergothioneine is supporting with the glutathione cycle and that master antioxidant, HSP70 and those things. So it's really impacting our healthy aging pathways from many different angles, not just one area.
Yeah. So if longevity is a thing you're after, and we have so many biohackers in our community, so many people that just feel this knowing that they're going to be around longer than 100 years, like maybe others in their families have, because we have so much advancement in science and AI here to help us. And I think when we look at Mother Nature wants us to have longevity. She wants us to have a health span that matches our lifespan. I loved that is this little molecule that can really affect longevity in a profound way. So you can only get ergo from food, mostly mushrooms. Oyster is the king. It is known to have a lot. Porcini mushrooms also are up there. And then that's followed by lion's mane, shiitake, and maitake. And I think it would be worth it for you, Dr. Des, to remind people that if they are going to look for their ergothioneine naturally from mushrooms, and they are going to not include mushrooms in their diet because so many people don't love to eat them because we often don't know how to cook them well, they're going to turn to a mushroom extract or a mushroom supplement. What do they need to look for to make sure they're getting enough ergo in the supplement they're taking?
Yeah, if you're using extracts, you want to make sure they are wood grown mushrooms, so grown on wood, not grown on grain. They have extraction processes, so hot water extraction, and then, for particular mushrooms, they're a dual extract like lion's mane. You want to make sure that they are standardized with the percentage of beneficial compounds that they contain and free of fillers. No grains, none of that. That's bullshit. Shouldn't have any grains. And the recommended...
Tell it like it is, Dr. Des. We're not holding back. Don't waste your money, please.
Yeah, don't waste your money.
Like we both did.
That's all. No fillers.
That's all. Okay, so we want to, in the research that we've read, it's very clear about 5 milligrams a day of ergothioneine is what you need in order to kind of be in line with that great research for all those benefits we just talked about. And that would mean if you were taking 500 milligrams of something, it would have to be a 1% extract. And I'm going to tell you, I think we test more than anyone on the planet. I think Craig and Shannon consider testing an extreme sport at Eversio HQ. We can't hit 1% in our mushrooms, and that of ergothioneine in our mushrooms. That's how small a molecule we're talking about here. It is difficult to test for, and we have to be really specific with our cultivators about what they're doing, how the mushrooms are being grown. We know they're being grown on the wood that they would have in their native environment. We know they're being grown outside in fresh air. We know they're exposed to sunshine, and these things all matter in order for the mushroom to produce ergothioneine so that we can receive it from that. So for us, the best way to get ergothioneine, again, from our products is from our 4-mushroom blend, because you're getting maitake, shiitake, and lion's mane, 3 of the heavy hitters for ergothioneine in there. And people stir that into their morning coffee, a smoothie, oatmeal, whatever it is. I love 4-mushroom blend in the evening. I love to put it in some almond milk warmed up with a bit of honey and cocoa and some cinnamon, maybe a bit of vanilla, and it's like the mushroom hot cocoa of my dreams. But you could also, 2 capsules of our lion's mane would get you fairly close as well if you're also consuming mushrooms in your diet. And I think we cannot say this enough, that it is, the research is so clear that consuming mushrooms 3 times a week, saute them up. I love to put them in the air fryer, a little avocado oil and salt and pepper. Just get them on your plate, and you will be getting the ergothioneine from them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing too, track how you feel. I love the data. So do you find that your mood is improved? Do you have more focus? What about your sleep? What about your energy? Those are the most common changes that people will experience and notice when they are consuming functional mushrooms that have higher levels of ergothioneine.
Yeah. The more we learn about ergo, the more we believe we are just starting to scratch the surface. It's like this missing puzzle piece in modern wellness, and we need to teach people how to say it. And it's ergothioneine. You can call it ergo. Now that you know about it, you're going to hear it pop up in so much new research coming along, and you're going to remember that it's coming from mushrooms because they are here to heal us.
I couldn't agree more. And a final thought is that it's a modifiable factor. Meaning you can take control. It's not about perfection. It's about giving our bodies what they were built to use.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you are curious about mushrooms, you're curious about getting more in, you can always go and take our quiz. There's going to be a link in the show notes for that. Quiz was designed by Dr. Desiree Caruso, naturopathic physician, with her whole heart and with you in mind, so that you can find a mushroom that fits the lifestyle that you are already living and meets your greatest health needs. So click the link to take the quiz, and reach out to us and let us know if there's anything else you want to learn about as you start your mushroom wellness journey. Like we said, ergothioneine is a very small molecular weight compound hiding inside all mushrooms, really. And if we don't talk about it, then your body isn't totally aware that it's even getting it. Now that you know the next dose of mushrooms you take, imagine the ergothioneine going in and all the great things that it's going to do for you.
Yeah, totally. And don't forget to share this episode with someone who could use a boost in their brain, mood, or overall vitality. But until next time, stay resilient and stay tuned in to nature's wisdom.
Yeah. Be well, everyone.
Be well.